Well, we are back this week with Coach Lou Holtz, and Coach, football is back in the spotlight. President Trump at the White House this week, next to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, next to the mayor of Washington, D.C. Two unlikely people to be in that office with him, but a big announcement that the NFL draft will be coming to our nation's capital on the National Mall in 2027. Want to get your thoughts on this and the significance behind it. Why do you think President Trump took this action?
Well, I think number one has great optimism. The draft, you could go into the draft and be a very poor football team, come out of the draft and be a contender the following year. So there's always hope that goes with it. And when you have people show up, and they show up without any inclination whatsoever what's going to happen. But all you have to do is look a couple years ago where you pick the right quarterback and it changes your whole team. All of a sudden you become a playoff contender, and that's real important. And there's going to be 1 million people, I think, in Washington for that. And everybody has optimism and belief, and every time you draft somebody, you think he's going to be all world, and it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even the mayor, who's not been a great friend of President Trump in years past, showing up there, very supportive of this. Looking at a new stadium in Washington, a lot of positive things for the city of Washington, D.C., which so many people visit. But let's look back, if you consider, Coach, the last several years, and when football was in the spotlight, at least when people like us spoke about it, it was because there was a lot of wokeness going on. You had players kneeling for the national anthem. You had the names of teams being changed because of wokeness. Do you think this is maybe a shift in the opposite direction, getting back to sports being sports and just celebrating something that brings people together rather than divides us?
That's the one thing about sports. I remember when I was coaching Arkansas, individual, John Cartwright, who I think was our president, said, Coach, he said, I get up on Saturday morning and I go out to get the paper, and the paper said, hey, do you think we'll take them today? And then it goes through the whole day. It's the one thing that brings everybody together, rich, poor, old, young, together. And that's a hope for your team. Now, we're talking about pro as well as college. So you have to have a optimism, but the draft had become so big. And you have the gurus that spend a whole year studying the draft. And there's no real inclination what's going to happen. All of a sudden this year we have a number 2 quarterback and taken to the 5th round. That's not right. That's not fair. I think it'll prove that a lot of people made a mistake on the quarterback. But we'll see as we go along. But that's what's really great. You're starting out all over again. You got a different team. You got different stars and a different quarterback. And all the hopes and dreams for your team are still alive. And that's what's really great. It's all about having hope for the future.
Yes, and I think, like you said, a lot of people will turn out in 2027. It's a really exciting event, regardless of your politics. I think a lot of Washingtonians will be supportive of this. They're big supporters of the team here. Curious to your take, though, what this looks like on the global stage, because President Trump mentioned something at the Oval Office saying, listen, we've got the World Cup coming here in 2026. We'll look at the draft in D.C. in 2027. And then the Olympics will be here in Los Angeles in 2028. That's a lot of eyeballs on the United States, looking at us coming together, celebrating our athletics, our athletes. What do you think about that and President Trump kind of bringing that all together?
And I think we'll be able to handle all this, all the publicity and everything else that goes with it, because we are a country that really, truly is thrilled with sports and the competition. The thing about sports, it doesn't matter about your race, your color, your creed, your beliefs, or anything else. It has everything to do with productivity.
Coach, what would be your message to athletes out there that are representing the United States at any of these games, any of these events? Anything that you would say to them, especially considering over what we've seen over the last several years, that so many of them have kind of gone political rather than really focusing on the sport and embracing it and their fans?
Well, the people that play the sport for the sake of it are the ones that thrive and survive. The ones that just get involved in politics are the ones that have a great deal of difficulty. And I think we also can look at the people that get involved politically in immigration. If you don't get involved in immigration, then you're going to find a way to succeed, a way to win. And it happens so many times. You look at the Oriental and how they aren't involved in politics, they're involved in productivity. And that's what it's all about, the productivity. And in the United States, I hope it will continue to understand that sports is the one thing that ties all of us together. That there are no refugees or no person that controls everything. It's just your belief and your willingness to work together. That's what made this country great. That's what made sports great, is people are willing to work and to believe and to sacrifice. It doesn't have a thing to do with your background, your race, your creed, nor your financial position.
Coach, I think we've really turned a corner here. You know, next year will be the 250th birthday of our country. Will be a big celebration around America 250. We've got all these athletic events coming here, a major focus on bringing people together under President Trump. Your final thoughts?
Well, the one thing about this, you talk about the World Cup or everything else, it does put an emphasis on our country. We can take pride in our country and how well we perceive and how well we achieve. And that's what it's all about. Having pride in our city, in our country, but at the same token, understand that it's just a game.
Coach Lou Holtz, you should have an office outside of the Oval Office. You should be right there with President Trump, because nobody knows common sense and patriotism like you do. And we so value your thoughts on something like this. Just a great time to celebrate amid what was darkness over the last 4 years. But man, so many great changes and ideas coming from this administration.
Well, you bring up a great point, and the advice that I give is exactly worth what you pay for it, which is nothing. All I do is speak from my heart, believe, and I'm 88 years of age, so I count on my background, my experience, on the things I believe, and I'm as involved today in athletics as I was 20 years ago. The difference today, I have to be sitting down because I can't walk, I can't stand, but I do have a faith and a belief, and it goes back to common sense. And that's what President Trump has done a great job, is using common sense for this country, and we need it more than ever before.
Well, Coach, you're very humble, and I think a lot of people would pay top dollar just to hear your advice. I know we certainly would, and we appreciate it. What you may feel like you lack in physical strength these days, you have overwhelmingly in mental strength and wisdom, and we so greatly appreciate it.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you. I've never had anybody as beautiful as you say as many nice things about me since my wife passed away 4 years ago.
Oh, Coach, well, we love you very much, and we appreciate you.